All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into U.S. immigration law. Buckle up. We're going to be focusing on the I-485 application. That's the one you file when you're applying for a green card. Now, our main source today is a blog post. It was written for immigration lawyers. But don't worry, we'll translate all the legal jargon and pull out the important stuff, the stuff that matters to you. And trust me, this is about way more than just paperwork.
Oh, absolutely. This is about people's lives. Like their lives are hanging in the balance, sometimes for years. This blog post really emphasizes that point. Getting a green card, it's not a quick process for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. The post actually mentioned some clients. They applied back in 2012, and they didn't get approved until 2019 or 2020. Can you imagine? Waiting almost a decade for a decision like that, a decision that impacts your entire life. That's got to be so stressful.
Absolutely. And that's where the whole priority date concept comes in. It's determined by basically when you file certain paperwork, and it kind of sets your place in line for a green card.
So it's like a waiting list, but instead of like numbers, they use dates.
Exactly. And to make it even more complicated, there's this thing called the Visa Bulletin. It has two charts, Chart A and Chart B. Chart A is like, think of it as the official green light chart, your priority date. It has to match the date listed on Chart A for your application to move forward.
Oh, okay.
Chart B, it lets you file the I-485 sooner, but you're basically in limbo until Chart A catches up.
So Chart B is kind of like you get a head start, but then you have to wait at a roadblock until Chart A gives you the clear.
That's a great analogy. And then just to add another layer of complexity, sometimes those dates on Chart A, they can move backwards.
What?
It's called retrogression. It's like taking a step back in line. It can be really frustrating for applicants.
So you can actually lose your place in line, even after you've filed everything. What causes that?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The blog author, they argue that politics play a huge role in how the Visa Bulletin moves, and therefore how long people have to wait.
So even if someone tries to keep politics out of their professional life, they can't escape it if they're dealing with immigration law.
That's what the author seems to be saying. They even earned the nickname Nostradamus for their ability to predict how political shifts would impact immigration policies.
Wow, that's wild. It implies that navigating this system requires more than just legal expertise. It's almost like you need to be a political analyst too. So what does all of this mean for someone who's actually going through this process, either as an applicant or someone supporting them?
I think it means being informed is crucial. You need to understand how these dates work, what retrogression is, and how political decisions might impact your case. It's not just about filing the paperwork. It's about understanding the bigger picture.
So for anyone listening who might be thinking about applying for a green card, or knows someone who is, heads up, U.S. immigration law is complex. It involves long wait times, and you need to be prepared for the long haul.
Absolutely. And I think what's important for listeners to understand is that this isn't just about numbers and dates. This is about real people and their families. Their lives are essentially on hold while they wait for a decision.
Yeah. That brings us to another interesting point the author made about the role of an immigration attorney. The source emphasized that choosing the right clients is critical.
Yes. And the author was surprisingly frank about this. They believe that attorneys should choose to work with clients whose values align with their own. Which at first, that might seem counterintuitive, but when you think about how long these cases can last and how much they're influenced by political decisions, I can see why that alignment might be important.
It's almost like entering a long-term partnership rather than just a transactional client-attorney relationship.
Precisely. And that long-term perspective is key because the author also highlights the importance of managing expectations from the get-go, being upfront with clients about potential delays, setting realistic timelines. That's crucial to avoid disappointment down the road.
It sounds like transparency and communication are key in this whole process, especially when you're talking about years-long wait times.
Absolutely. It's not building trust and ensuring both the attorney and client are on the same page from day one, which makes a lot of sense when you consider how much uncertainty is baked into the system. Remember, we're talking about people's lives and futures here, so clear communication is essential.
Now, one thing that really struck me was the source's suggestion about outsourcing certain aspects of immigration legal services. It seemed counterintuitive at first, but then it made sense when you think about how much time these cases can take.
Right. The author argued that outsourcing tasks, like document preparation and follow-ups, could free up attorneys to focus on the strategic aspects of a case, essentially allowing them to work smarter, not harder.
So it's not about replacing attorneys, but more about giving them the support they need to be more efficient and effective for their clients.
Exactly. It's about using technology and expertise to streamline the process and ultimately benefit everyone involved. It can also help with those long wait times, ensuring things move as smoothly and quickly as possible.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've learned about the I-485 application, the dreaded priority date, and the Visa Bulletin, the impact of politics, the importance of choosing the right clients, and even the potential benefits of outsourcing certain tasks. What's the key takeaway here for our listeners?
I think the big takeaway is that U.S. immigration law is complex and often unpredictable. It's a system heavily influenced by political decisions, which means even the most prepared applicants can face unexpected delays and challenges. And those delays can have a ripple effect on every aspect of their lives.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart, but I think what's important to remember is that behind all the paperwork and legal jargon, there are real people whose lives are on hold.
Absolutely. Each application represents a person or family hoping for a better future, a chance to contribute to American society, and while the process can be daunting, it's also a testament to their resilience and determination.
Speaking of those human stories, the author had a really interesting point about choosing the right clients. It's not just about finding someone who can pay your fees. It's about building lasting relationships with people who understand the complexities of this field and trust your expertise to guide them through it.
It raises the question, though, what happens when those values don't align? What if an attorney feels morally conflicted about representing a client?
That's a tough one. I imagine it would take a lot of soul-searching and maybe even some difficult conversations to navigate that situation.
And that's precisely why the author advocates for transparency and open communication from the start. It's about setting expectations, being honest about potential challenges, and ensuring both the attorney and the client are on the same page. It can help avoid those situations where values clash down the road.
That makes sense. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of I-485 applications and U.S. immigration law, is there a final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think it's important to remember that this isn't just an abstract legal process, it's about people's lives. Imagine waiting almost a decade for a decision that will profoundly impact your future, where you can live, work, build a family. The wait times alone can be incredibly challenging. But when you add in the uncertainty of political influence, it becomes even more complex.
It's a powerful reminder that behind the statistics and legal jargon are real human stories filled with hope, anxiety, and a whole lot of resilience. We're talking about people who are putting their lives on hold for a chance at a better future, and that's something to think about.
Exactly. And that's something worth pondering, even if you're not directly involved in the immigration process. These are issues that affect us all, shaping the fabric of our society and reminding us of the human impact of policy decisions. It's a reminder that behind every application, there's a person with hopes, dreams, and anxieties, just like you and me.
Well said. So for our listeners out there, let this be a starting point. For your own exploration of this complex and fascinating topic, stay informed, engage with the issues, and remember that behind the paperwork are real people's lives.
And if you find yourself needing a little more patience in your own life, just remember those folks who waited nearly a decade for their green card. Talk about perseverance.
It's easy to get lost, in all the technicalities. But at the end of the day, this is about people, right? It really made me think about the ripple effects of those long wait times. Like, how does waiting almost a decade impact an individual's life choices, their career, their relationships?
It's fascinating, isn't it? You're essentially in this suspended animation. You can't fully commit to certain plans or make long-term decisions because so much hinges on the outcome of your application.
It's like a giant question mark hanging over your head year after year. I imagine that uncertainty must be incredibly stressful.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Trying to plan for your children's education, or buy a home, or even just make travel arrangements when you have no idea where you'll be allowed to live in a few years. It's a lot to carry.
It's almost like a hidden cost of the immigration process, the emotional toll of not knowing what your future holds. It's not just about the legal fees and paperwork. It's about the mental and emotional energy it takes to navigate this system.
Exactly. And I think that's something we often overlook when we discuss immigration. In purely legal or economic terms, we need to remember the human side of this, the anxieties, the sacrifices that come with navigating such a complex system.
The author also talked about the need for attorneys to stay ahead of those political trends we discussed earlier. They almost have to be political analysts to effectively advise their clients.
Right, because those political shifts, they can have a direct impact on case outcomes. The author used the example of the travel ban, a while back, which directly impacted visa approvals for people from certain countries. It highlights how a single policy decision can have a massive ripple effect.
That makes the author's Nostradamus nickname even more fitting. It really suggests that immigration law is as much about predicting the political winds as it is about legal expertise.
Precisely, and it underscores the importance of finding an attorney who not only understands the law, but also keeps a close eye on the political landscape.
So it's not just about knowing the rules, it's about understanding the game.
That's a great way to put it, and it goes back to that idea of choosing the right clients. The author argued that building long-term relationships with clients who understand these complexities is key to success in this field.
Which brings us back to the whole idea of outsourcing. Outsourcing certain tasks to free up attorneys' time and mental energy.
Yes, remember the author suggested outsourcing tasks like document preparation and follow-ups to virtual paralegals or remote legal assistants. It's a way to streamline, those more routine aspects of a case, allowing the attorney to focus on strategy and client communication.
I could see how that would be beneficial, especially given the sheer volume of paperwork involved in these cases. But I do wonder if outsourcing those tasks could potentially create distance between the attorney and client.
That's a valid concern. It's crucial to find a balance between efficiency and maintaining that personal connection. And perhaps it's about choosing which tasks to outsource carefully, focusing on those that don't require direct client interaction.
Right, like maybe those initial data entry tasks or routine filing procedures could be handled remotely, while the attorney focuses on those conversations that require more nuance and sensitivity.
Exactly. It's about leveraging technology and expertise in a way that benefits both the attorney and the client without sacrificing that crucial human element.
It sounds like finding the right balance is key. Too much outsourcing could lead to a disconnect, but the right amount could actually enhance the attorney's ability to connect with and advocate for their clients.
And let's not forget the potential benefits for clients as well. Outsourcing those routine tasks can often lead to faster processing times and more efficient communication, which in a system with such long wait times can be a huge relief for those involved.
Okay, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the main takeaway here for our listeners? We've talked about the importance of political awareness, choosing the right clients, the potential of outsourcing, and always remembering the human impact of these decisions.
I think the key takeaway is that U.S. immigration law, it's a complex ecosystem with many moving parts. It's not just about knowing the law. It's about understanding the interplay of politics, bureaucracy, and human lives. And it's about recognizing that even seemingly small decisions can have a profound impact on individuals and families. It's a system that demands patience, resilience, and a deep understanding of the human stories at its heart.
And it's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping this system, whether we're directly involved in the immigration process or simply trying to understand it better. Our engagement and empathy matters, but that's a conversation for another time, perhaps. For now, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned about the I-485 application and the intricacies of U.S. immigration law. Easy to get, caught up in the legal and logistical side of things, but we can't forget about the human stories at the heart of it all. We're talking about people making life-altering decisions, putting their life on hold, all for a chance at a future in the U.S.
It's a good point. It's a reminder that immigration is more than just a policy debate. It's about individuals and families seeking new opportunities, safety, or a chance to be reunited with loved ones. And, that journey, it can be so uncertain and full of sacrifice.
The source material we looked at mentioned how some applicants wait almost a decade for a decision on their I-485. I can't even imagine what that kind of uncertainty does to a person. Like, how do you even plan for the future when so much is up in the air?
Yeah, it's incredibly challenging. Just think about it. You might be hesitant to invest in a home, start a business, even make major family decisions because you just don't know where you'll even be allowed to live in a few years. It's like having this giant pause button on your life.
And while you're waiting, the world keeps spinning, right? Friends and family are moving on with their lives, career opportunities come and go, and you're just stuck in this holding pattern. It's almost like this hidden cost of the immigration process, the emotional toll of not knowing what your future holds.
Exactly. It goes beyond just the financial costs and the paperwork. It's the constant stress, the anxiety, the fear of the unknown. That can really wear someone down. And I think it's something that we need to acknowledge and address as we think about, immigration policy and its impact on individuals.
It makes you think about the choices people must make. During that waiting period, like, do you put your life on hold completely? Or do you try to move forward, knowing that everything can change in an instant? Those are some tough decisions.
They are tough decisions, and it's not just individuals who are impacted, it's families, communities, entire social networks that are affected by these long wait times. And the uncertainty of the immigration process. It's a ripple effect that extends far beyond just the individual applicant.
I think this deep dive is really highlighted. You know, the human side of immigration law. It's easy to get lost in the technicalities and in the political debates. But ultimately, this is about people's lives, their dreams, their hopes for the future.
It's a good reminder that those human stories are at the heart of every immigration policy decision. It's a reminder that our actions and choices as a society have real-world consequences for individuals and families.
So from our listeners out there, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the complexity of this topic, just remember that every I-485 application represents a person with a story of hope, perseverance, and often incredible sacrifice.
Let those stories be a guide as you navigate this complex landscape. Stay informed, engage with the issues, and most importantly, approach this topic with empathy and understanding.
Well said. That's a great note to end on, Understanding the human stories behind all the policies and the statistics, that's crucial to having, a meaningful and productive conversation about immigration. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.